Panspermic Warlords is the second full-length album from WYRGHER, and this is a Zurich, Switzerland-based project from Menetekel. Menetekiel. This is a fellow who is a pretty important part of the Helvetic Underground Committee, which is a circle of black metal artists who also venture into various other genres. It's a collection of artists that have a similarly experimental but spiritual and just deeply interesting underground touch upon everything they do, and they've been quite successful, especially in bursts, with a lot of their most long-standing acts releasing things around 2015, starting in 2013 or 2014, and WYRGHER is one of them, and this is a science fiction themed black metal band which has some death metal influences, and started out very much more along the lines of the then emergent psychedelic, atmospheric but raw black metal sound, which I would equate with something like Wormlust and the first two albums from Aranci Pazuzu. These were science fiction kind of conceptual albums with an atmospheric style that was influenced by psychedelic rock and space rock even. Now, that isn't necessarily what the first record from this band was in 2015. In fact, it was something a little bit more raw, a little bit more progressive in its touch. There was obviously an accomplished artist there, and we would find it's the same person behind Ungfell, which was a very different type of band, but the same artist showing off his sort of thoughtful touch to everything he does. So as we move on, we don't really hear from this band at all. We hear from a lot of his other projects that have cropped up over the years we see a long distance between a lot of those records, and the most recent one would probably be, I guess, Lycaon. That was a pretty interesting project, and we saw a huge leap in quality from 2015 till now, and that's starting to we also saw that with especially Ungfell with their last release. So in approach of this record, we find the artist has certainly advanced the skill level, the render, the contacts that he uses to mix and master and record these recordings, and the quality is so high that it's easy to take it for granted just how far an artist can come in the span of about 10 years. So get ready for this record, because it's very dense with ideas, it is very expressive, and it's very professional. So let's jump into a song, and you can get a feeling for how cinematic and also a little bit sort of dissonant it is in its guitar work. So there are a lot of ways that we could describe this sound, and I guess atmospheric, psychedelic in some respects. There are some walking bass lines, there's some space rock feeling movements there. I kind of equate some of those with the evolution of Ranci Pazuzu around Valonielu, as well as bands like Sin Mara and Icelandic black metal, and sort of these more adventurous types that took a little shard of what like Deathspell Omega and other bands had done in the progression of the orthodox style of black metal, and sort of turn that into a cinematic, sometimes avant-garde, or just generally atmospheric style of black metal. So for me, this record reaches for an upper echelon in terms of its conception, its arrangements, and its instrumentation, especially with the use of its dissonant, or often just a certain technique that they use with the guitars to create phrases. And this is one of my favorite things in modern black metal, I guess. And it does feel like it is tangentially related to orthodox black metal in some respects. Now, the actual theme of the album deals with old scientific, well, not so scientific theorems of panspermia, and applies it to a science fiction narrative, which is fairly deep in terms of the involved nature of the lyrics. I think the original style of this band was more expressive, less so lyrical. There was a lot of interesting vocal noises that sort of make their way into this album, but this is very much a more professional result that is obviously up to par with even the most, biggest supported acts that this person works behind. So for me, at first I wasn't sure if I should take this seriously. Is it just a side project? Is it a one-off? But actually, it turns out to be one of the best records from the fellow to date. I think, for my taste, I think this is a real step up in quality beyond the original record. Of course, I think it shows very clearly what the artist is capable of now versus back then. And I just happen to have followed a lot of that work over the years. So this was a little bit of a shock to the system. I wasn't expecting to like every aspect of it. You know, these 9.5 minute songs, which kind of dot the landscape, really fill out this record to feeling like it really earns its 50 minutes of attention. And the sort of cosmic horror, science fiction theme really adds to that for my own taste. So it's, something that is accessible in a lot of ways, but also challenging in others enough to where it doesn't feel like too bleak or too underthought. This is a very well considered record that feels substantive every time I pick it up. So, if that sounds like your kind of thing, for me, this is one of the highest recommendations for July. I kind of saved it for last here at the end of the month, and probably I think this might be my highest rating overall. We'll see how it stacks up in the ratings for the top 20 here pretty soon. So check it out on Friday this week and go ahead and read the review. There's a pretty extensive amount of thoughts there to pick through.